seem so convinced and it seems too easy to be true.
Sure, he says that.
We often try and overcomplicate stuff too much, and business is a game of simplification.
Really? Like, this is crazy.
Welcome to another episode of the Physically Jacked Financially Stacked podcast. If you're an online coach looking to scale your business, and particularly maybe from the Scandinavian region, we've got Yusuf, who's come to join our team recently, who's been crushing it. Basically 3x his business from 15 to 40k a month. Made some big investments in Dubai recently, and generally killing life. So thank you very much for your time today, Yusuf.
Thank you, Charlie.
First thing I'd say for you is a really good question to ask. What would you say is the big limiting belief that's been broken over the last few months? Because I know there's been a few.
Yeah, so the one I think about first when you ask that question is that you don't have to work more, you just have to have a better system. So we met each other 4 months ago, and I was doing like 16k. And for me, in that time, if I wanted to do more, I was like, I have to work more hours. And we just had to do small adjustment to the program, the concept, and also like how I'm getting leads. And I'm not working more, but I'm getting more results for the same time. And that for me was like, really? Like, this is crazy. Because I didn't believe you when you were like, hey, because I told you about my business, and you were like, hey, you will get there in 3 to 4 months. And I was like, sure, he says that.
I get this a lot where people say, you seem so convinced and it seems too easy to be true. But like, that's only coming from the position that I've done this myself and still do it myself. And like, when I see something like your position, like this is a home run, I'm like, you just do these two things and you've done it, right? And it literally worked. Yeah,
and I for me it was like, it can't be just these tweaks. It was few tweaks that was very easy to do it, but it gave so much more. So for me it was more like, we have to like do everything from the bottom again and build everything. That will take time. I have to rebrand myself and like everything, you know.
And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see most people making, including myself, is we often try and overcomplicate stuff too much. And business is a game of simplification rather than multiplication. It's like, instead of going like wide and doing 10 different strategies, it's just like max out 2 that work. And like, even with where you're at the moment, I know you could double your business, just keep doing what you're doing right now. It's just about doing more volume of it and improving what's being done and like the efficiencies and how good your team are and all that type of stuff, and then it compounds, and then you can start to layer more stuff in. Because I think, I know this happens to me a lot, or it's happened to me a lot and still does. I get red shiny object syndrome of like, I'm doing this one thing, it's working really well, but then I see this other thing, like I could go and do that as well. And what happens though is your focus and attention gets pulled. And one of my favorite sayings is, a genius who's got 5 businesses or 5 things he's trying to manage loses to an idiot when he's only got one thing to manage, because they're focused, they're so split.
I think all the people listening who has a business will came across a situation somewhere where they want to try something else because they are like, hey, I'm very good at this. If I just put this in this business too, it will explode. Or the thing that I have been, it feels like I'm in this situation all the time. You know, when you go to friends, you go to family, and they can see that you're getting better, something is working, and they're like, hey, bro, seriously though, you should start a restaurant. You should start a gym. You should do this. Yeah, why don't
clothing brand.
And they put it on you like you're stupid. Because why are you not doing this other stuff when you have the potential and the like opportunity? And I think that's where you have to be like, no. That has been hard for me as well. Very hard.
And that's the most difficult thing. So imagine you add a 0 onto your business, the amount of opportunities you get like that come to you adds a 0 on as well. And you've got more money, more resources, you probably got more time. So like, I've started to go down all these things. I made like wraps we tried to sell that was shit. We started looking and doing like supplements. We had the labels and the branding and stuff done. And then you start looking at all these things, you're like, why am I doing this? Why don't I just go sell more of this thing over here that's like way more profitable? We've already got the system for it, it's easy to do.
You know, I think also that is some kind of limiting belief from I can resonate with that. And also I think the people who are like giving you these ideas, like do this, because this online coaching like
Isn't real.
they still see it as a personal trainer,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you're a PT, and
What does your mum think in Sweden of this, for example?
like when someone asks them what does your son do, she's like I don't, he like helps people on the internet, I don't know how it works, but something like so my father and mother, they still think I'm helping people in the gym, and for them it's hard to like, how can you make money doing that? Like, how can you scale up a business? And I think sometimes for me, when I think about this other stuff that I can do, also supplement brand, restaurants, open a gym, it's because I don't understand how much you can actually scale an online business. And for me to coming into the seven-figure program, when I saw you and when I saw the other guys, I was like, really? Like, really? Can you build it that big? What?
And that's actually one of my favorite things. I said this to someone today, is because like encouraging people to share all the wins and stuff like that, because people are like, there was a guy, Ben, who you might have seen, the ACL knee rehab specialist, right? It's a super random, super niche thing to do online. He sold his first 3K program for 12 months. I think when he came to us, he was doing like 1,500, I think was his highest. And he literally said he saw someone else do it and he was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I saw Matteo did a 20,000 euro sale. So then another guy, Thomas Willick, was like, well, fuck it, he did it, so I'm going to try and push higher prices. And like, you get confidence because you see other people doing it. And that's why I'm really excited for the event we have next month, or this month in Dubai, because when you sit in a room and you're like, that guy's making like $80,000 a month, that guy's making X amount, you're like, he's no different than me, then you suddenly realize you can do it as well.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
In terms of your own personal development, what would you say, like coming from Sweden and obviously Scandinavia is a slightly different background, do you think there's maybe more unique challenges with that in terms of from like a mindset perspective?
Yeah, so I think in Sweden you have something called, and you can't even translate this word, but it's called Lagom.
Okay.
And Lagom means you're not supposed to be very good and you're not supposed to be very bad. You have to be in the middle, and if you try to be better than that, it's something wrong with you. What do you think of yourself? So in Sweden we have this thing that you always have to be lagom, and I think it's a very dangerous place to be, because in Sweden most of the people are middle class. We are not poor, we are not rich, we are satisfied, and that's lagom.
And that's the dangerous position.
That's dangerous.
Most people then give up on their coaching business. And I'd actually say respectfully to you as well, huge credit, because where you were previously was satisfied, you were earning good money, you could sort of do what you want. But that's where I see most people tap out, because they get lagom, or whatever the expression is, because it's like, oh, I can travel around a bit and this is easy and this is all working, so they're like, I'm good.
Bro, let's say you're making 10 to 20k a month, so you have taken the step out of the 9 to 5, you feel good about yourself, you feel like, hey, I have escaped the matrix, I am now 10 to 20k, I'm making more than all of my friends, I can do whatever I want. You're still not free though, because you still have to put in the work to get the, like, you're not working for that financially independence. And there is very dangerous to be. For me, it's even now, I can tell you that my brain is very easily getting pushed back to this lagom satisfied. I told you after the program that we had for 3-4 months that, hey, Charlie, I feel good now. I'll get back to you later on. Thanks, man, for the help. And you were like, hey, no, bro, this is where you need to push. And for me, I needed that, because when you come from lagom, satisfied, that is your comfort zone. Your brain always gets back to that point, and to push you away from that, that's hard. So for me, you pushed me actually, because I see you as a mentor. So I was like, you pushed me to do this investment that we talk about. That was very big for me, but that put me in this dangerous, I need to push phase again. I feel poor phase. I made a big investment here in Dubai. And I think when you are in that lagom, you you need to push yourself, or you will get stuck there.
I think as Chris Bumpster saying, but like pressure is a privilege. Like you're lucky to be in the position you are, and like truthfully to Yusuf, I was whinging a bit earlier about like I'm tired and I've worked too much today and yesterday, but like I'm privileged to be in the position I am in, and that's because I put myself under pressure. And like that expression, pressure makes diamonds, is true. Like the harder you push yourself, the better you become. And then also like your perception of what's difficult changes. And I think for anyone listening to this who's growing a business, the harsh reality I've learned is the bigger your business gets, the more problems you have and the more pressure there is. But your ability to handle it becomes higher, right? You just get used to it. Yeah. So your tolerance is way higher. So it's just
that's your new normal.
Yeah,
right?
It's just equilibrium is then just higher, right?
Yeah. So one thing I need to say is that one thing that you asked me, what is the difference like when you moved, and one different I can really think of is this thing with, let's say I went from 16K to 40K, my business tripled, and I was like, Jesus, this is really nice. And then I thought that I had been free from this Lagom satisfied mode, but you're so deeply programmed. Like it gets like you get to this level and then it comes back. Then you need to do something else to push you even higher. And for me, this is something I try to think about, because I am still in this process. I can still I thought when I made this goal, I will be free of this problem. So when I got to 40K, I was like, hey, I'm free from this problem, but I was still in it. So I need to remind myself all the time that this is my normal. I always need to think about the pushing. And that's hard, because we also talked about something else that I hope we bring up.
We'll come on to that in a minute. And what's really interesting that you just said there, the Lagom thing happens to me too, but just at a different level. And that's where everyone listening to this needs to understand that your growth won't surpass your personal development, to the point that like I've pretty much, and I've had multiple people say to me that I have the skill sets to get to 8 figures. You just get in your own way and cause your own problems sometimes, because it's almost like a mindset issue, right? And I'll tell you a really cool story for a friend of mine who's also been on the podcast, Alistair Hart. He arranged for me on Friday. We went to go and look at a $5 million Bugatti Chiron. He made up some bullshit that I had come into loads of money and I was going to buy it. I didn't know this at the point. So we went and had a look at this $5 million Bugatti, put me in it, started it, fucking sick. And then he was like, gave me a speech about like, this is who you are, this is where you're fucking going, like you need to get your fucking mind in gear. And I was like, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And you need things like that in your mind sometimes just to click, to feel like, yes, you are worthy and you can do it. Because one of the biggest things that happens to every single person, myself, Yusuf, and you listening to this, is imposter syndrome. You think you're going to fuck up, you think you're not good enough, you think you're going to go back to fucking Sweden, the UK, whatever.
Bro, that's something I just need to say something about. So I wrote this down some days ago, but let's say you come from this Lagom, you're satisfied, that is your normal, okay? So you go through life, you're just surviving, you're having everything you want, so you have nothing to lose really. Even if you fuck up, you have nothing to lose. When you push yourself and get to this, say 40K like me, now I have more to lose. So when you have more to lose, it's scary to get there. It's scary to push yourself, because you're like, imagine I push myself there and then I lose it. It will hurt. Fuck that. I will just be here.
And I remember you saying to me, if you don't mind me saying, that you were overwhelmed because you had a lot going on when you got to 40K a month. And I was like, okay, that's cool, that's normal. But do you know what's more overwhelming is you go back down to 15K. So I was like, you need to keep going and just fucking like, don't think, just do. And it's almost like a racehorse, put the blinkers on. It's just, don't look, don't think of any other shit, just deal with what's in front of you and just like keep going. You know, well, I will say this to put it in perspective of what I mean by Lagom for the people listening. Guys, this is crazy, but I have been stuck at 16-ish for 3 years. So I started my business online coaching 2020, and the first year I did about 16K a month for year 1, year 2, and year 3. That's wild.
So I had a very good start, but I was so satisfied. So I just kept like, this is where I'm going to be. And I had to do this to get to 4. And that happened in 4 months.
And that is what happens, I think, when you put together strategy and implementation, because like the credit was with you with actually doing it, because it's easy for us to give you the right advice and guidance, but the problem is that it's like not enough people take action and actually do the thing, right? But what I think is important for you as well is that, and it has happened, when you action it and you see success, you're like, holy fucking shit, like they were right, this works.
Yeah.
And then you believe, and then you start doing more. And the same as like weight loss clients, is like, oh, I don't know if this program's going to work, and suddenly someone loses like 2-3 kilos in the first week. They're like, holy shit. Which is why it's important about getting quick progress.
Exactly. And another thing that made it click for me, that actually made me move from Sweden to Dubai, because it's a very big step for me. I have all my family in Sweden. I have lived there for 30 years, and I have everything there. It's my comfort. And for me, it was like, when I got this idea, all of my body was like, bro, why can't you just be here live, get children, everything is great, man, stop pushing. But that was that if you have this coffee, and let's say the coffee's value is set by the environment. So if you have this coffee in a shop, it's maybe worth, let's say, $2. If you have this coffee, let's say, in the airport, maybe it's worth $3. In the plane, $4. And I was like, if I just take myself and put myself in a different environment, maybe something will click. And that for me was to be around people who's doing what I want to do. Like in the program, when I saw you and you were like, I'm doing this, and I was like, so we're doing the same job, but he's doing 10x more than me. How is that possible? And when I just saw that, it clicked for me. That was the most important thing for me, to get triggered and be like, hey, I am losing money.
And the losing money I like to refer to as ignorance tax.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite sayings, anyone listens to this, I say fucking every episode, is like, you don't know what you don't know. And as soon as someone says something to you, like, that's really fucking obvious, and like, it's almost like you're blind to it at the time, because you have what's called like cognitive bias. So like, you almost only see what you want to see, and like the answer you want that consciously is probably the easy thing to do is like, oh, I should go and do that. Whereas reality, like the harder thing that is the obvious choice of what needs to be done, that's sitting there in the front of you, is like the thing that your brain is almost trying to steer you away from, because you know it's probably going to be harder.
Yeah, sure, for sure. So that has been the biggest difference for me, moving from Sweden now till Dubai.
One thing I'd say in terms of you coming to Dubai, what do you think has changed for you lifestyle-wise in that respect?
So one thing is that I see more opportunities for sure. So like everywhere you go, you see more opportunities, but also I feel like more fortunate to be able to do this, what I do, to work from wherever you want, whenever you want, with whoever you want. Is like, it's not many people you meet that does that. So I have a client who works as a pilot, and he's making very good money, but he can't move from wherever he wants. He have to be in a like this specific place. So I feel more fortunate. And when you see, like in Sweden, you don't see poor people. You don't see taxi drivers working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day.
Construction workers.
You don't see that in 40 degrees. So here you're like, bro, I got this opportunity. I can go from that to that. Seriously, I have no time to lose. Let's go.
And I think, I actually said this on a call earlier, someone was saying to me that they don't think there's enough money in the world, and I was like, to correct you, I was like, I literally behind my computer screen can see Dubai Marina, and I've been watching the last 20 minutes super yachts going past. It's like, there's no shortage of resources in the world, it's just resourcefulness to go and get those resources.
Yeah.
And people putting limiting beliefs in what can be done. And I'd say one of the biggest mistakes I see fitness trainers do is get stuck in the trap, in particular from the UK, selling low price points, or like a race to the bottom, and just monthly. And respectfully, that's what I would do if I didn't want to make money. And I think when you go against the grain and do something different, you'll make a lot more.
Yeah, I have been thinking about that as well. If I can just like I thought about it on the way here. Like, I knew that maybe you're going to ask me what has been the biggest change, and the biggest change, also one of the biggest change for me has been that going from selling something very low ticket to a higher ticket now. I even want to go further,
You should.
but some people will resonate with this.
Yeah.
But I am this kind of person. I am a giver. I love to get my clients to get the most valuable product. Like, I am obsessed with that. I don't know why, but my personality is like that. If I do something, I want to go as hard as I can. I'm just extreme like that in my personality. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, but I am like that. So when I create a product or something, I want to give as much value as possible. Then if I do a low ticket, everybody knows if you do a low ticket and your personality type is like that, you will burn out. You will be in a position where you give more than you get back, and that has happened for me the last 3 years since I started my business. And a low ticket, for you guys who don't know, was like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but like $10 to $250 a
Yeah.
month. And I went from that to now doing only 1K, between 1 and 3K programs. And for me, and I know I need to get like higher, because I give so much value to my clients. And if clients are listening, some people will be like, hey, but why don't you want to charge more? Is it about money? No, but what has helped me with more money is I can have a stronger team. I can pay them more. I can make them to do a better job. So the products become better because it's a higher paying client. And also, the most crazy thing about this was what the client does.
I knew you were going to say this.
Bro, like, what, like, results the clients are getting, it's like, I feel like a genius. I'm like, what?
And when you break this down, it's simple human psychology, and I'll explain it for anyone listening. If you sign up someone who has struggled to lose weight for the last 10 years, you sell them something that's relatively cheap and it's on a monthly payment plan, how committed do you think the person who's been struggling for 10 years with this issue is going to be? Probably not. If someone pays a lot more and they pay up front for a period of time, that's a period of time to like be the permanent solution for their problem. So say someone needs to lose 50 pounds, they need 12 months, so they sign up for a 12-month program, so it's 3,000 euros, whatever it is, like, and they pay that, like, literally to them, psychologically in their head, they're like, fuck, I've drawn a line in the sand, I'm stepping over it, I'm fucking doing this with Yusuf for the next 12 months, I'm all in. And that's what you need, and that's, anyone's listening to this, your job as a coach. If you're not doing that and you're getting shitty results and you're selling monthly, that's part of the reason why.
Do you know how that clicked for me though? That was when I myself...
When you joined this.
Exactly, because I went through the
painful
same
enough.
feelings. I was like, I can't fail now, seriously. I invested the money in myself. It needs to work. I don't care. I don't care if the program sucks. It needs to work.
Yeah. And that's the important thing, is also why if someone's very affluent, you also probably need to charge more, because if someone's a multimillionaire and it's 997 euros, they're probably not that bothered. And I think that's where people also have to understand the value that you can have changing someone's life. If, say, for example, you work with one of the top executives in Sweden, they make 10 million a year, you can add 1% productivity and happiness to their life. How much more money are they going to make? A lot more, because of how they feel. So then you can actually charge them more.
And especially when you are this personality type that loves to give as much value as possible. So if you do the coaching business to help people and give them as much value as you want, you can, then do a high ticket. If you're in the coaching business to make money, only to make money, and just to create something that like helps them but not helps them, do a low ticket. So
100% agree. One of the things I wanted to go into, we were actually discussing before this, was talking about overwhelm with managing business, being burnt out, and all that stuff that is the reality that still happens. Now, the reason I bring this up is the fact that people think this is subject to happen at different levels, but it happens at every level the whole way up. So like I was saying to Yusuf before this, I feel pretty fucked, and I've like worked a lot recently. I had a call at 10 p.m. last night. I was up at 6:30 a.m. filming ads on the beach. Like, it's like non-stop. And for anyone listening to that, I'd say that's good. That's normal. And if you don't have phases where you feel like that, you're probably not trying hard enough.
Yeah. So we need to talk about this, because I actually wanted to ask you some question about this as well. So as I said, I looked to you as a mentor, and I was like, I'm in that place right now where I can't really connect to my creativity. I don't know what it is, but it's something that I know what I need to do, but it's hard to get that creativity, and I'm only doing organic right now. So you need to be creative then to get in the leads all the time. That's something I want to change in the future though, because I don't think it's sustainable. But I wanted to ask you that when I'm in this phase where I feel like this, and it happens like 2 times a year, it happens, and I feel like embarrassed. It feels like I'm like
Bit of pussy.
yeah, like, what are you doing, bro? You have this opportunity, you have this, you have this mentor. He's not like, he's just going. What are you doing?
And I feel exactly the same. And the reality of this, I actually messaged Frank DeBlanco, who did training the other day. It's like, do you ever just feel really fucked? Like you've worked too much? Like literally, I think that's literally what I sent him. And he said like, yeah, what you need to do is X, Y, Z. And I'd realised suddenly it clicked. So what I normally tend to do, I inherently have a really weird situation where I love routine and like the same repeatable thing over and over again, but I inherently get really bored, so I need to like move around and change. So it doesn't really go very well. So every 6 to 8 weeks, I plan on just trying to travel and go and do something just to change my perspective and clear my head. So I'd say for anyone, like the most important thing you do is like auto-regulate, as if it was like training volume. It's like if you feel like proper fucked and you've been working really hard for the last 4 or 5 weeks, if you want to take 4 or 5 days of only working 2 hours a day on like the basics, then go and do it. And that's basically my plan to manage that. And normally what I can do is almost like, say if it was like work fatigue as in like a power bar, right? Let's say I take it all the way up to 99, so I'm like super burnt out. If I normally can go to the beach for like half a day on a Saturday or something, like that normally brings me back down to like 90. And then by the weekend after, I'm back up to like 99 again.
Yeah.
So I can almost keep myself at that point. But after a certain period of time, I need like a longer gap. And I would say the best thing I have done in the past, which broke one of the biggest limiting beliefs in my life, and is my goal for you and for everyone we work with. So you don't have the golden handcuffs. You actually have a business you can walk away from and it works without you. I went to the Maldives last summer for 4 days, didn't take my phone, didn't fucking talk to anyone, no one could message me, no one could contact me. I was like, it's like I died and disappeared. And at the first like day I was like fucking like paranoid, like, because I was like, not my phone, I've got any of this. And the day afterwards I was like the best I've ever felt. Like head felt clear, just felt amazing. And like I remember distinctly being in the airport in the Maldives, like opening my laptop, like what the fuck, like, you know, like what the fuck is going to happen? And nothing. We'd continued to make sales, everything continued without me. I was like, I've officially replaced myself. And I was like, that's pretty sick. And I did the same thing in February this year, and I think I read 5 books in like 4 days, and like my mind just like blew up with like ideas and creativity. And that's what I'd say for anyone, like having times away from like external communication is really important, even if it's just a day or two, and you can still get everything done you need to by getting someone else to post your content, like stories, Instagram, whatever. And even if you said to your clients, you coach yourself, that the next 2 days I'm out of contact for whatever reason, then it's not going to be an issue.
All right. So when you say that, 2 things come to my mind that still doesn't make sense for me. So I think the one thing I think about the most is, let's say you are having this goal, and you're having everything is going great, and then you are feeling the triggers of, I'm getting there, creativity is dying, everything. You feel like you feel, it feels weird to just
guilty.
Be like, guilty. You feel like 3 days off now is the solution. No, bros, 3 days. You need to push harder now.
So I think there's a caveat to the Maldives thing. Is like extreme, right? It's like taking a heroin addict off heroin. But what I'd suggest that you do is like, you're only allowed to work like an hour or 2 in the morning. That would be a good start. So even say, for example, he said to you next week, okay, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you're only allowed to work for 2 hours in the morning from 7 till 9. After that, you're not allowed to do anything. And then see what happens. Like, you then got shitloads of time just to like clear your head and just let like the dust settle, if that makes sense. Because the clearer your head is, the better the mindset you're in, the better you can perform in the business. And this becomes even more important the bigger the business you have, because the bigger the business you have, your mindset and decision making then cascades down and affects everyone else. So like me keeping myself at like top level high frequency is super important, because if not, that's going to throw everyone else off below me, if that makes sense.
All right, that makes sense. And I like this idea of like setting a rule for yourself. So let's say for me, I will be like, okay, I feel this now. I will just work 2 hours a day for 3 days in the morning, do what's most important, and that's good. But another thing I want to ask you is how, like, I want some details. How many times, like, okay, say in a year, how many times?
I would say someone does that every 5-6 weeks.
How many times do you get drained?
So I would explain this a bit like taking a training deload, right? So if I was in Dubai and not leaving and not going anywhere, I would probably say I'd try and do it every 5-6 weeks. I inherently have times like in the summer where I was traveling around like Vegas, Dallas, Los Angeles, Malibu, all these places. I went fucking mountain biking for like 3 days, where like I had days where I didn't really do any work. So there's going to be phases where you work more and you work less. So I almost try and think about having seasons throughout the year where like this is like time to grind and times to like enjoy myself more.
Like summer, winter.
Yeah.
Okay,
So like,
okay.
I came back from Dubai 2nd of September and worked for like literally 3.5 weeks straight every single day. It was too hot to go outside and I couldn't do anything else. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to work. And I got a lot done and we crushed it in September. But that then has probably also put me in a situation now where like that fatigue is massively accumulated, which is why I need a break. So I think breaking up into seasons of the year. I also know coming into December, I'm flying to Denver end of November to go to like a N1 training camp in the gym, and then going skiing for like 2 weeks, and then it's Christmas. I'm sort of taking December like holiday mode. So like at the moment, recording all my content, all my ads, all my podcasts, everything for December. So I'm done in advance, which means in periods I probably have to work harder. But the periods when I'm like traveling, I'm not like stressed that I'm in the US and I need to do podcasts and make content, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you would say, if we break it down in like numbers, you would say like 8 times a year?
Yeah, I would say 8 times a year is a good amount.
Yeah, and 3 days, 3 to 1 week, 3 days to 1 week.
I reckon 3 to 5 days is
3
enough.
to 5 days you have to take time off.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't do that enough though, I think. I think I would perform at a higher level if I let myself do that. And it's something I need to work on. And actually, one of the things that's good to say, one of the things I'm flying to Istanbul on Friday is to go to a personal development event with John DeMartini, because I know that's my like bottleneck is myself and the way I manage myself. So if I can unlock that and get myself to the next level, that will then help me to push you to the next level, everyone else to the next level. And I think one of the biggest things most guys are very arrogant in dealing with is that they aren't critical enough to look at themselves in the mirror to think like, what's the real problem here? Because a lot of the time it's not the strategy, it's the way we're applying it, or our daily routine, or us being a bit of a bitch and being like not being consistent with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the hard balance, I think, for me, to be that consistent, that pushy, that going, that getting it, and taking these breaks. That's why I'm so interested in how you do it, because
but that's that short 2 hours. That's the bit that will keep you going. Do you know what I mean? Because that's like, if you talk about anyone say the Pareto principle, which is 80% of the results you get in life are from 20% of the work.
Yeah.
All we do in those days is the 20%. So like for you, be posting on Instagram, posting content, booking sales, whatever it might be.
Okay, so what is, tell me,
what's the 20% for me, you're going to say?
Yeah, first of all, what is the triggers? When do you feel, is it your girlfriend or some friend that tells you that, hey bro, you're different? Or is it, what is the triggers for you?
For me, it's I don't want to work.
Yeah.
Or like, normally I wake up and I'm like, I get to work, I'm excited. If I'm like, I can't be asked to get up, that's the sign for me, like
so no excitement.
Yeah, I'm like, here we go again, like that. Then that for me is like, yeah, you need to take some time out. Probably a lack of stimulus of like creativity, and if I just feel like I'm not enjoying it. It's the same thing if I had a fitness client who's not enjoying their training. I'd say to him, like, go and take 4 days off. Like, don't be a fucking retard and go and drink and eat like a spastic, but like, go take 4 days of training, just eat more food, maybe just chill out a bit, and then come back. Because inherently, psychologically, if you can't do something, what do you want? You want to do it more, right? So I'm like that. If I can't work, I'm like, oh, fuck it, I want to go play with my business, like my big red shiny toy. I want to go and like do something.
Bro, I think this is so relevant for so many people. When I think, especially for me, so let's say you said excitement, that it's something you don't have anymore, and also you don't have you have less creativity.
Yeah, the spark's gone, right?
Yeah, and I think for me the worst part that I need to fix is that I stayed there and I just try to push it with that low creativity, so I burn out even more.
So you'd be better off doing the 2 hours a day for like 3-4 days, coming back, and even just change your environment, I think, is a big thing. So like for me, for example, my apartment in Dubai is sick, but like it seems like an office because all I do is work there. So like I need to go somewhere else for 3-4 days, like stay in a hotel or do something just to change the environment, so I don't feel like, because I know if I'm at home I'll end up on my computer, like.
Yeah. So let's say now you're on these 3 days.
Yeah.
You have came to conclusion that I need to take this day off. Okay. You have taken, your team knows everything is good. Okay. You go away.
Yeah.
What
do I do?
Do you feel guilty day 1, day 2?
For the first like couple of hours, yes. And then what tends to happen, I wake up on day 2, I'm like, fuck, I don't give a fuck. Like the world continues.
Yeah.
Like you wake up, it's like sun's still in the sky, like the world's not ended, right? And then it's like the monkey's off my back, and then it's almost at that point where like I don't want to go back. Like talking about this, I want to go to the Maldives now, but like it's that's very much the way I find. It's like the initial phase feels bad and guilty, and you feel, it sounds a really strange thing to say, you feel like a drug addict, like with withdrawal symptoms, because it's sort of like that, because business is like dopamine, right?
Exactly.
And you feel important because of shit going on, but as soon as you come out of it the next day, I'm like, I feel super chilled, I don't care.
And then next day you don't care, you go and do your thing, you maybe take it easy. Let's say you watch a movie, let's say you read a book, let's say you see someone getting a record month. Do you get triggered?
So the important thing with that is trying to stay off social media. So like I try to stay off WhatsApp, Instagram, all that shit, because what would happen, I'll see something and it'll trigger me straight away.
Yeah.
Social media is the worst. The one thing I'd say that is okay is books, because you can consciously control what's put in front of you, but if you open your phone, the social media feed, I can't control what turns up.
So what is the longest you have gone? How many days?
I think 4 or 5 with no phone. I think that was in February.
And day 6 you felt like, I want to get back to work?
No, actually, ironically, I couldn't be asked. I would happily have taken more time off. And
this is good.
And I think my challenge probably next year is to try and do 2 weeks of like, you guys are in charge. I'm like, just pretend I've been hit by a bus. It's almost like a business test, right? And some good things can come from it, some bad things, but like, what's the worst thing that can happen? He says on camera. But the reality is, I think that's actually a good strength test for your business to see like, okay, how well does this run without me now? And if you can get a business to the point where it's running without you, that's when you've really got the machine working well. And then it's also serving you in your life. And one of the things I've thought about a lot is actually I don't enjoy life, but enjoying life more. Because like, here's a really fucked up scenario, right? I thought about this the other day. I got an advert, this is good targeting on Facebook, for a super yacht. And I was like, that'd be fucking sick. I was like, when I'm making this amount of money, I could like hire a super yacht in the summer for a week. It'd be really sick. And I suddenly thought, I was like, I already make that amount of money. Why have I just not done this? And you're like, your brain is just like fucking mangled sometimes, like these limiting beliefs you set in yourself. And I think that I caught myself, I was like, that's so weird in terms of the way you think sometimes.
Exactly, because that's connects with what I was saying before, that sometimes you have broken some limiting beliefs, so you think you're free of them, but you still have them, so you need to challenge this all the time. And you, like, I think this conversation shows like me on 40K and you, I don't know how much you are doing right now.
400, like
400, and you still have some. You need to think about the limiting beliefs sometimes as well to challenge them, right?
Oh, 100%. And then it's when I see someone else doing fucking crazy shit, I'm like, that's why. Here's an interesting perspective. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's basically like, remember when you'd be happy with when you're doing what you're doing right now. So it's like, if you said to yourself, like, you're making 40,000 euros a month and you live in Dubai, you'd be like, that's fucking insane. 6 years ago, I was an estate agent who made £70,000 a year before tax. That's like 35,000. We've done that a day.
How many years ago?
5, 6.
5, 6 years ago.
So it's not that long ago.
No.
And then the context of that is fucking crazy. And I think that's sometimes where one of the most important things, and like I say to a lot of people, is like, oh, I've had a shit month, like it's not going well. I was like, well, look at your year-to-date stats. Look at your last quarter.
Yeah, so zoom out.
Zoom out the horizon. You're like, fuck, like the bigger picture, I've done pretty well. And like, I like crypto a lot, which is doing well, which is doing better now. But if you zoom out on the charts, you're like, well, the long-term trajectory is still up.
Yeah.
There's been a bit of a fucking dip, but like long-term it's still going up, right?
Yeah. This is very valuable for me because, as I said, I'm in this position now where I pushed July, I pushed August, like I really pushed, and you know, when it's so much new stuff, you're learning so much new stuff, and you're also seeing the opportunities, you get very, very pumped, and you're like, I just need to keep on pushing, it's no breaks now. But I can't get away from this feeling right now where I don't feel as excited as I did, and I have less creativity. So sometimes I think you trick yourself to believe or think that maybe this is not for me, like this is not my answer, but it is. But
that's what I said to you earlier, is that then you feel like that now, but imagine your business goes back down to 15k a month, you'd be like, what the fuck? Then you like, your world implodes. And that's where the most important thing is understanding how you feel, but then also understanding that this is the goal of where I want to go. And I say one of the best things that I find personally helps me the most is numbers. So I literally track my net worth, all the investments I have, how much cash I have all the time. So like, if I'm like, you fucked it, the last 2 days has been shit, like I'll go through all my bank accounts, everything I own, I'll be like, well, you're doing pretty well, so it's like, you should probably just chill the fuck out.
When you say all the time, give me a like.
I was going through a phase where I do it every day. I probably do it 3-4 times a week. So I'll go through all my bank accounts, like crypto accounts, everything, and I'll be like, okay, that's like what I'm worth. And I'm like, okay, cool. That gives me a reassurance in terms of like, okay, say every single business you had, all 3 businesses you had shut down overnight, you've still got all these assets and all this other shit. Like you could sell an apartment and then you're like, you're good. Like you haven't really got a problem, if that makes sense.
That aligns you to the task, like to the goal.
Well, it gives you more reassurance because you've got more of a backup. And then if you haven't got a backup, this is a really good tip that I do a lot as well. Because a lot of people stress as a financial is doing monthly projections. So I project where I think we're going to finish in terms of financials, and I project what our estimated profit's going to be. So the way I would do that is take how much money you've made month to date, divide it by how many days that is. That would give you like your daily average. I would then times that by how many days are on the month. So like October's 31. That would give you projection of where your income should be if you carry on the current trajectory. And then I would just take off what your estimated expenses are normally, gives you a rough idea of profit, and they're like, okay, cool. That's how much I've got coming in. And then you can work out, okay, there's 10 days left of the month until I have to pay everyone or pay whatever bill it is. You're like, okay, I've got another 50 grand coming in, or 20,000 euros, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, so this is like, it's very valuable to hear this from you, I think, especially for me, to be like, it's not that different. Like, this is how you feel, this is what you go through. Sometimes you need to check it every day, and I can relate to that. And it just, I don't know, but it just feels like, all right, this is the game. Like, this is how it is.
The easiest part of the game is when you have someone else to ask. Because the problem with business, and particularly when you run your own business and also it's online, it's fucking lonely. And almost worse at the beginning because you don't have team members to ask stuff. And like, you can't ask your parents, they're not going to understand. You can't ask anyone else who's got a normal job. And that's where, in my opinion, masterminds, mentorships, and being parts of other things, like, you can see what other people are doing and you can share common issues, because like, whatever problem you have, I'm going to have, or whatever problem anyone else have, we all have the same issues, maybe at just different magnitudes, but it's just learning the best way to deal with those problems, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah. And also I can say that when you do the masterminds, it's new for me, so I'm coming from this, like, this comes from someone who just started to do this, but it feels like you prove to yourself that you actually take this serious. You're like, sometimes when you have these limiting beliefs or doubt yourself, or be like, bro, is this really for me? Maybe I need to do something else. I don't know. Yeah, I feel tired. I feel this. Maybe this is not for me. Then you're like, but no, I invested this. I took this step. Why did I do these things if this wasn't for me? This is what I am feeling right now. It's just a phase. I will get out of it. And that's the good thing about this phase for me, where I have less creativity and less excitement. I have been here before, so I know I just need to ride it out.
And that's what comes with experience in business. And the longer you do this, the easier it gets. But the most important, and I'd say the last final thing I'd say for most people it's really helpful, is literally writing shit down. Like, I was really stressed yesterday for like, not no reason, but like, you know, you got loads of like annoying problems, like bank problems and crap like that. So I was like, I literally wrote down, I was like, why am I stressed, question mark. Like, wrote down the 4 things. I was like, are any of these things going to matter in probably like 3 weeks time? Probably not. It's more like things irritating. I was like, well, you just probably need to chill out. And I think just understanding you're constantly going to have problems is just the way it is. And it's how you react to these things that's an important thing.
Yeah, makes sense.
What would you say is the biggest challenge you face right now?
The biggest challenge for me right now is, we talked about it earlier, but is to keep on pushing myself to this high ticket sales, because I can see myself sometimes slipping back.
Take an easy sell.
Yeah, like you have someone you're talking to a lead, and you know what this person needs, and you want to get them on. So you're like, you just want it to work, so you push back your principles instead of being like, hey, you need to invest in this. So that's the biggest challenge for me, because this is still new for me. So I still need to push for the higher ticket.
And I said this on the training call the other day, like the number one thing that makes the most difference when it comes to sales ability is sales skill times certainty. So the more certain you are in your belief in terms of like how good you are, how good your program is, how convicted you are, like the easier it's going to be to close people and the more difference that's going to make. So that's where I'd keep pushing on those people in terms of as far as you can, and literally like you want them to have so much belief that they're like, holy fucking shit, there's no way that I can't do this.
Exactly. And the crazy thing is, I don't know if it's like if some energy in the universe or what it is, but I did what you told me when we talked last time. I switched from taking the calls through the phone to Zoom calls, and then after 1 week I had a lead who I was like, okay, let's now try this, and I did my first 3K sale.
That's fucking sick. And here's a statistic that if you do calls on Zoom versus like WhatsApp or a normal call, you should get a 33% higher sale rate.
Yeah, I just had that in my, like, I just had your voice and be like 30% more, 30% more. I was like, this will go, I will make this happen.
And that's where these small things like that now over a period of time will make you fucking hundreds of thousands of euros, and that you don't know what you don't know, like just compounds upwards, right? And for anyone listening, the reason why that works so well is that like on camera now, if you're watching a video version of this, your tonality and your body language and the way you carry yourself really comes across. And the 2 things I'd say that's really important with that when you're taking sales calls, one is I try and dress smarter, so I always try and wear like a polo shirt or a collared shirt. 2 is don't have loads of shit in your background. So like ideally I'll try and make a professional background on Zoom that's got your branding and stuff. So as soon as they come on the call, like, holy shit, this guy's professional. Because the more professional you come across, the more you can charge.
Exactly, and the connection is like you connect in another way.
Completely different. To wrap things up, Yusuf, where would be the best place for anyone to find out about you?
So you can visit my Instagram, Yusuf.alpha. I'm only doing it in Swedish. Actually, this is something I also want to talk about more in the future. I might want to change to English, but then maybe you have to rebrand and everything. Yeah. So I don't know if it's the right move right now. But Yusuf Alpha at Instagram right now.
Awesome. Thank you very much for the conversation today. Anyone listening to the podcast, I know you've taken some inspiration from this. You should check out Yusuf's content. He'll be the #1 trainer in Sweden very soon. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe. And if you want help scaling your online fitness business, hit the link below the podcast to book in a free call to find out how we can help you.